It's a pretty long story. I've had a long history with alcohol. I'm actually 61 years old. And so I had a 40-year relationship with alcohol, 40 years. And it started, like when I was around 17, 18. And, I'm originally from Pennsylvania, kind of the Philadelphia kind of area. And I lived a good portion of my life there till I was about 40 or so. Yeah, so it started when I was 18 and, just beers with the guys. I drank beer pretty much, for a long, long time. At that time in New Jersey, the drinking age was 18, and where I was in Pennsylvania was 21. I discovered I could take little trips. There was about an hour drive to a little town called Milford, New Jersey, and I used to go there and get cases of beer and then bring them back over to Pennsylvania. So that's kind of how I started to work around the system during those couple of years when I was kind of 18 through 21. I kept doing that, going to Milford, get a case of beer. And then eventually I found this little bar in Milford, New Jersey. And I used to sit in the bar and I would go there in the daytime, right? And sit there like in good afternoon, right? Get into the evening. Pretty much when it started to get dark, I might kind of drive home. Boy, I'll tell you, I don't know how I made it home. We're talking an hour drive. One night I left that little bar in Milford, New Jersey. I woke up and I was in my car. I was on someone's lawn, and my car was in the middle of this guy's lawn. I didn't know where I was at. I had a feeling I was still in New Jersey because I don't think I drove very far before I pulled up. And it was morning. So I look on my windshield and there's this note, and I kept the note. I still have this note to this day. And the note, I'll show it to you. This note says, "Bert, this guy is drunk. Let him sleep. Dan." So I kept this note, at the time it was like funny, right? And I kept it. Now looking back on it, I can still laugh about it now, but this was really a call to me because it was telling me, "Hey, John, you just blacked out. You were drinking and you encountered a blackout." And so this note, as profound as it is, never really hit me in that way. But that was my first sign that I didn't recognize, that I didn't realize. I was blacked out. So I kept drinking in my younger years, and just pretty much beer. And I was pretty much a weekend warrior, like in my 20s. I would go Friday and get my case of beer. That's all I could afford back then, right? Get my case of beer, drink that case over the weekend, and be done with it for sure by Monday, and just go back to work. So I pretty much drank that entire case for the most part. Friends came over, maybe they'd bring beer. Like I used to hang out with my friends on the weekend, and we used to just drink all weekend, every weekend. During my 20s, there were things that we got into that allowed us to pretty much stay up and drink, the entire weekend. Yeah, I had some pretty bad Mondays in those years in my 20s. So, I kept going in my 20s. Around that time, cocaine was really popular. Dabbled in that. Dabbled more. I stayed a weekend warrior, but it was something that was not good. And then I got married, and then I had a newborn come along. When that newborn came along, my son, my wife, she was a partier too. She had put it aside. Of course, she got pregnant. She did the right thing. And then she kind of walked away from that sort of life. But I was still stuck in that life, and I had a newborn. She put up with me for a little while, and eventually she left, went back to her parents with my son. That really hit me hard. And so I did go to a rehab, and I was in a 30-day inpatient rehab. I got out, and I lasted about 2 weeks. But then by a miracle, what I did was, after that, I joined a gym, and I had never belonged to a gym. And in this gym, they had racquetball courts there. And I started playing racquetball, and I got really into it, super into it. That actually is kind of what got me to stop drinking. And I didn't drink for like 5 years. I stopped drinking for like 5 years. I was in my early 30s at this time. In a sense, I was doing a sort of a fit recovery program on my own in a way. So then after the 5 years, I was at a baseball game one day with a friend and decided I was going to have a beer. And so I did. And so I started drinking again. But during those years, had my son, I really kept it under control. I didn't binge drink or anything like that. It didn't present any problems for me at work or any family issues or anything. So in my 30s, I was pretty good. Towards the end of my 30s, I went to the doctor one day. I said, Doctor, like I knew I had something. I knew I had a problem with alcohol. I knew I had something. And I did want to like kind of stop. And at that time I was still sort of that weekend warrior kind of guy. So I went to the doctor and said, Hey doc, I drink on the weekends and at the end of the week, Friday, I just want to just have a drink and then sometimes on the weekend I drink a lot more than I want to. And I was like, is there anything, that you could help me with that might sort of help me curb that scenario? And he goes, Oh, so you mean like a cocktail? So he prescribed me Xanax. And this was in 1997. So this was before, Xanax really became sort of this monster thing. So here's a doctor. Again, this was before Xanax really turned into a monster. Here's a doctor. I tell him I drink too much. He prescribes me Xanax. He didn't address anything about my alcohol issue, right? He gave me Xanax instead. And I think back to that. Wow, that's crazy. I mean, that's how Whitney Houston died. Actually, for quite a few years, quite a while, that did the trick for me. I didn't really ever go over the dose. A lot of times I just took half, at nighttime or whatever. And I took Xanax for quite a number of years, probably like 10, 15 years. So then 2005, I'm about 40 now, 45. I left Pennsylvania, moved to Florida. In Florida, I managed to, I lived there for 1 year and I didn't drink at all in Florida. You know how they say, the thing is, sometimes when you move somewhere else, it kind of worked for a little while, but that really doesn't work. And I can tell you why, but, that concept doesn't really work. I had things around me, I basically spent my whole life in Pennsylvania wanting to leave Pennsylvania. So here I was in this new place. I was lived by the ocean, I was living in Miami Beach. I had so much activities, I was still playing racquetball. I could play outdoors and working out healthy, and it was warm and had the ocean. So yeah, I had all of those distractions. So it made it really easy. It did. I didn't really think about alcohol. But every night before I went to bed, or every evening, I took that Xanax, half of it, and then maybe a whole one every night. Yeah. So I hung on to that. It actually did curb me for a while, but then it turned against me eventually. After I left Florida, I was there for a year, and I got a job in California. So I moved to Northern California, and I lived in Santa Cruz. And I have my Santa Cruz colors on here. In Santa Cruz, here I am moving to a hippie town, party town, beach, surfer town, probably not the best place for me to be. And when I moved to California, I was blown away at just how available alcohol was, like everywhere. I was just not used to that. You could get it anywhere, anytime too. Like back in Pennsylvania, if you drank liquor, you had to go to a state store. And the state stores were closed on Sunday. So this was like, oh man, alcohol was all around me. So I hung in there in California for a little while. But then I had an issue with my neck, and eventually I had to give up the sport of racquetball. So here I am in California. I have no sport. I started drinking more. And then it started to, kind of increase. But then I found the sport of volleyball there. So then I found another sport outlet. But I continued to drink. But it wasn't until I turned 50. That's where, and I was in California still, that's where it really sort of just turned into, it escalated. My alcohol use disorder escalated like crazy. When I turned 50, I got laid off from a company that I worked for like 21 years. I lost my girlfriend and I was not happy about turning 50 at all. I was really depressed about it. And that's kind of when it started. So I started getting into this binging pattern. And that's what I fought for the next 10 years. I had a binging pattern. It was really bad. I kind of lived like a dual lifestyle. Like I was like super healthy, played volleyball, went to the gym. I took vitamins, I took supplements. I took a lot of the supplements that you recommend. Super healthy. But then whatever it was, some little thing would happen. Maybe I was depressed about something at work, or maybe something else went wrong. Or maybe I just finished playing volleyball. I'm sore and tired. I just wanted something. I would pick up a drink and it was like, bam, I would go into this binge. And my binges would last for like 2 weeks solid. It would start kind of slow, but then it would quickly, over a couple of days, just escalate to a point where I was drinking around the clock. What I was doing, basically, I was drinking, and at that time I was drinking like hard cider. I would drink cider for like 4 hours, eat something, fall asleep, and then I would sleep for about a couple of hours, till the alcohol wore off, woke up, started drinking, and this would continue into the night and into the middle of the night, like around the clock. The binges got so bad where eventually, when I fell into a binge, I just like everything I was doing before, taking vitamins, supplements, all that stuff, out the window, stopped. I started eating garbage. I crave like garbage food. I was going to McDonald's, and getting like 4, sausage, egg, and cheese McMuffins and eating them and stuff. It was bad. I didn't take care of myself. I didn't shower. I didn't shave. I like barely brushed my teeth. It was horrible what I was doing to myself. But then at the end of 2 weeks, I was always able to just, what happened was I literally drank like till I couldn't drink anymore. And I knew it was like, okay, 2 weeks has gone by. I gotta get it together. And so I just kind of just stopped, I just stopped. And it was, it was a little hard at first, but not super hard. But as the years went on in this binging pattern, and I would binge, I had sort of like a cycle every couple of months. As the binging went on, the binges got worse and it got harder to get out of the binge as the years went by. During that span of 10 years, towards the end, like the binges were getting really hard to get out, like scary hard. Once I picked up that drink, man, I was like addicted, like it instantly. And then that just set me off. What I did basically was I just stayed home. I didn't do anything. I didn't talk to anyone. I didn't answer text messages. I didn't look at emails. I ignored my work. I couldn't keep a girlfriend. No way. I just couldn't. I met girls, but they quickly left me. Like I knew there was something wrong, but I spent so many years trying to just have that one or two. And it was confusing because sometimes I would, but then the next day I might have 3. And then the next day I might have 4, and then boom, binge. So it took me years and years over and over and over to figure out, okay, this is not, there's no way. It took me a long time to really accept that I had alcohol use disorder and be okay with it. I fought it. I just felt like, why does this have to happen every time? Why does this have to happen? Why can't I just drink like a normal person? I have Irish heritage, and it definitely, has a play in it. I mean, my grandfather had alcohol use disorder, and my dad had periods where he struggled. I did years ago come up because I always was trying to stop drinking, right? And I used to attend AA meetings and stuff. I came up with a good little line for myself when when you're at a party and you have that issue where somebody says, "Well, why aren't you drinking?" Right? This is like very common among people like you and I, right? So what I say is, I'm Irish, so I don't drink. not everyone gets it at first, right? It's
Hmm.
kind of like a joke, but
Hmm.
it's not. I really kept my drinking super like secret to everyone. There were only like all of those years I talked about. There was only a couple people that knew, like my sister, my son, other members of my family, of course. But like I didn't tell anyone. Super secret about it. So this is a picture of me, kind of what I look like. This is at the end of one of my binges. I don't know how many weeks, couple of weeks, not taking care of myself at all. That's how I looked. Because I was struggling. I couldn't figure out how to stop this cycle. I spent so many years just trying to get out of that cycle. And I was so frustrated. I used to mark on the calendar what days I went into a binge. I have a bunch of calendars for, I don't know, maybe like 5 years where I have it all like checked off what days I drank the entire year. So I struggled with it. I was really struggling. I just wanted it to stop. I wanted to stop it. It was so hard to get out of that pattern.
Yeah.
But I knew in my heart that there was something physiological about it. Just the way I would go in and out of like super healthy, because after I looked like that picture, I managed to just stop drinking. Wasn't easy, but I did it. It was the first day or two. It was horrible. I would recover very quickly and get myself back into shape and looking good really quickly. And then it took me a little longer each time. And then each time I had a binge, it was harder to get out before I was finally able to stop. I mean, I was doing crazy things just trying to get out of the binge. I was calling like rehabs and stuff and just crazy stuff. Sending crazy messages to my family, help me. Just, oh man, it was scary, scary stuff. But I hardlined it every time. I just did it on my own with nothing. Really, the last binge that I had, it was right when I was here in Hawaii and the pandemic hit, and we were locked down. And was on a contract job. The job was over. I had to move out of my place. And, oh man, I was in a bad place. So I started drinking. And I just like didn't care. I just didn't care. I was buying champagne bottles. I was drinking champagne. It
Yeah.
lasted a month. That one lasted a month. And I had to go to a detox to get out. And I went to one detox. My son helped me get to a detox. And it was a national hospital chain, and I won't mention the hospital name. They put me in a bed, and then I was like sort of in the hallway, and there was like nurses there that could see me. And so I was laying back in the bed. They didn't give me anything, nothing, nothing. And every time I would like get up from the bed, they would go, lay back down. Dude, I didn't last in there. I don't know how many hours I lasted in there, but it wasn't long. I called my son and said, hey, come get me. When I was on that binge of a lifetime, I went to that detox and I got right out of that. And then my sister helped find a place for me here. And it was a really good place. They gave me a medically assisted detox. The doctor there, it was a nice facility. I stayed in there overnight. They pumped me with a ton of gabapentin and a whole bunch of other stuff. And man, when I woke up, Jesus, it took me like an entire day to just feel like normal again. But I got out of there, and I only spent one night in there. I had to leave. I couldn't stand being in there either. But they helped me out, and I got introduced to gabapentin through there. So I left there, got home. Guess what I did? I started drinking again. My son he literally dropped me off from that detox, and he left. And I had like a bottle of champagne somewhere. I started drinking again. He came back. He caught
Mm.
me, and he was so pissed. But yeah, I don't know. Was not happy with myself. So a couple of years before that, I saw that TED Talk with Claudia Christian about naltrexone and the Sinclair method. And when I first watched that video, I was like, I'm not doing that. I don't want a pill to keep me drinking. I want to stop drinking, right? So I didn't go that route. But then later on, after this crazy binge and I was home, I had the gabapentin. That's when I went to my doctor. And my doctor goes, naltrexone. He goes, I've never heard of that. So he pulled it up on his screen. He read a little bit. I was like, okay, we can try that. So he prescribed me that. And so that's how I got out of that binge. I had gabapentin, naltrexone. Took me about 3 or 4 days to a week. I would just slowly just taper down. Every couple hours, I would take that naltrexone and the gabapentin, along with drinking. I actually used that along with the gabapentin to sort of wean myself down to a point where I could actually just kind of put it down, altogether. So then I kept up with that for probably a year. The Sinclair method calls for you to take it in an hour before you have a drink. So I was doing that. I don't know how long I did that, maybe 6 months or maybe close to a year. I don't remember. And so I was drinking, but I was drinking very, smaller amounts. I didn't go into any binges, and that kept me kind of somewhat, sort of pretty stable for the most part, but still drinking. And then that's when I found your podcast or your video, and your video is titled "How I Quit Drinking by Rebalancing My Brain Chemistry." I found your video and I saw Fit Recovery, and I was like, "That's it." I watched that video. I'm like, "This is what I've been looking for a long time." It's exactly what I was looking for. Fit Recovery. This is me. So, found that podcast. I found your Fit Recovery YouTube channel, and I just started watching those. It was amazing. After I watched that first video, fairly quickly, I went out and got some DLPA, some glutamine, and some tyrosine, and I started taking it in the morning, and it was like a light switch was flipped on. And that was almost a year ago. And from that first day that I started doing that, I have not had a thought or a craving or anything. I felt good. I know with DLPA that it definitely gives me a good sense of well-being. It makes me clear-headed, almost like a cup of coffee, but not stimulating like a cup of coffee. Very different kind of a clarity, energy. And it really helps me with depression too. Really helps me with depression. Now, mind you, I'm 61. I've had a long history just battling this thing. It was a battle. So I have to, just mention also that I was really ready to stop. I've been through so many things with it. I was at a point, and now I'm turned 60, and I made a promise to myself years ago that I'm going to stop drinking by the time I was 55, because I know once you turn 55, your system just, starts to degrade, and you don't want to put alcohol in there, right? You do not. I failed on that promise, but 60, I was able to turn around. So I had these factors, and I live in Hawaii. So I had a long history. I was really ready. I think that if you took the average guy off the street, let's say you get a homeless guy off the street and you give him those 3 targeted amino acids, it might work. I also do think that you have to be ready as well. And one of the great things about your program is, I mentioned the targeted 3 amino acids that I talked about, phenylalanine, glutamine, tyrosine. There's so much more that you've introduced me to that it's helped me so much, when you're recovering, or let's say when you're transforming and regenerating all of those neurotransmitters and so forth. There's a lot of other things that help me with my everyday life. Like, you turn me on to CBD oil, CBD pure. You got me started drinking chamomile tea. Chamomile tea, I've experimented with that years ago. Years ago, I tried all that kind of stuff that helps you sleep, like all the herbs and everything. And, I tried chamomile tea. It never really worked for me. I never really liked the taste of it either. But when I heard you say that you used to take 8 tea bags and put them in, I was like, oh, okay. So I went out, and I'm going to show you. This is the brand that I found. I found this by Googling best chamomile tea. And it doesn't have anything else in it. There's no other flowers or honey or herbs or anything. So it's straight chamomile. Oh my God, the taste of stuff is so good. I don't use 8 bags, but I use 3. And then what I do is I take that CBD oil and I put it in there and I mix it around. It doesn't really mix that good, but it's okay. And it kind of throws off the taste sometimes. So sometimes I'll just drink straight chamomile, but a lot of times I'll just put CBD oil in my chamomile tea. What a hell of a nightcap that is. It's a great thing. And chamomile has so many health benefits for you. It's not doesn't just help you with sleep, it helps you with digestion, helps you with depression. There's a whole list of health benefits. And I've learned so many things from you. Like, there's just so many things. Like, that's the great thing about your program, because it's not just about stopping drinking, which I did, but it's like discovering all these new things. Like, there's so many things that I've learned from your podcast that I haven't even tried yet. There's so many things that you guys have introduced me to. It's amazing. So it's not like I'm stopping something, which I did. It's like I'm starting something new. And it's just fabulous. It's fabulous life. Fabulous. I have just about a year now of not having a drink, but I'm still like I feel like I'm still in my infancy. I can still feel so many more things I can achieve, like physically for the most part, health wise and mental health, all those things. And, your program is not just about stopping drinking, because you talk about other things that are just general health. There's so many things I've learned from you, just about general well-being and health. It's not just about, take this herb or that herb. It's about, what you're putting in your body, what you're eating, and, meditation, all these kinds of things. It's just, it's amazing. It's an amazing program you have. I'm blessed that I get to work from home in Hawaii. And then, when I'm not working, I'm a big beach volleyball player. And I've been doing that for a bunch of years. So still doing that here in Hawaii. And I'm a surfer too. Yeah, go to the gym, cycle a little bit. So yeah, a lot of outdoor stuff. I like to hike. There's so many good hikes here. Absolutely. And amazing benefits that the sun provides you. I mean, the sun does amazing things for you. Provides you with lots of healthy things, vitamin D. But it also is a big for depression too. Because I know, like, when I lived in the East Coast of Pennsylvania, like, it was gloomy all the time. It was not, it's very different, right? When you have that sun. That's the other great thing about your program is I watch all your podcasts, right? I watch every day. I watch like one. It's like part of my day every day. So I see you, I see Matt Finch, your co-host, and you guys are fine-tuned machine. You've gone so far with it. And so that's really inspiring for me, because I want to get to the same place you guys are. That's the best thing about this is we're not just stopping drinking. We have so much to just explore. It's like it's not like stopping something. It's like starting a new life. It's a great life. And I'm so lucky too, because I have a very supportive family. My son is amazing. He's seen me through this battle, and so happy to be where I'm at for him and my sister too. And I didn't mention it, but I'm also doing your online rehab. What a great program. And one of the best things about it is you're not just giving me some online thing to do. I'm doing it, but it's got a good mix of video, text, whatever. But you have coaches on there that each section you go through, you have to they ask you a question, or you're asking a question. What about this? How did you feel here? What do you do? This strategy or whatever. And then you answer the question. And you have coaches that actually reply to you. So it feels like somebody is with you on the course. Yeah, it's revolutionary. I want to use that word. Thank you, Chris. Aloha.
Hi, my friend. Matt Finch here, introducing the extraordinary flagship program created by Chris Scott, the founder of Fit Recovery. This is a one-of-a-kind online program for dominating alcohol through biochemical optimization, mindset, and more. Why continue to test out trial and error when you could follow a powerful and proven 100% customizable system? Get instant access to over 20 hours of step-by-step video instruction, the ability to ask your questions of Chris Scott and his head coach Matt Finch, that's me, and the rest of the life-changing and transformation-catalyzing features and benefits included in the program. To learn more, read or watch testimonials, and get started, visit fitrecovery.com/course. And to save an additional $25, use coupon code 444 at fitrecovery.com/course.